If you click this video, something in your business probably isn't flowing the way that it should. Maybe your pipeline is just not as full as you'd like it to be. Maybe your schedule of clients is not quite where you'd like it to be. Or you're likely working super, super hard, but the result just isn't compounding the way that you would hope. Well, you are in the right place. I have a client, we will call him John for privacy. And John had been in business for about 10 years. And John's schedule was completely empty and his P&L was not where he wanted it to be. I walked him through the 5-step framework that I like to think through for business development. And I was able to ask him one question at the end of it that completely changed his business's trajectory and filled up his entire schedule. I'm going to tell you what that question was by the time this video is over. But first, let me just give you context as to the framework that I gave John. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will have the tools that you need in order to get out there and kick some butt. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so the framework is called, you can remember the framework with the acronym SCALE. SCALE. If you've ever seen my face funnel, it's similar. However, there is a very significant difference here in the scale model that I have here. And I'm probably honestly going to be teaching a lot more about this as we go because I think it's hyper effective for especially high ticket business owners. The first stage is showcase. First stage is showcase. The first stage is how do we get eyeballs to see our business? How do we get people to see us? It could be through paid channels or organic channels. The organic channels might be social media, might be an e-blast, might be referral partners, might be word of mouth, could be chamber of commerce, who knows? It was any way that you're building natural organic momentum. Think free-ish on the organic side. The paid side is where you pay for direct access to, you pay per access to those eyeballs. That's going to be your Google ads, your Meta ads, maybe an influencer, maybe a billboard, a magazine, mailers directly to somebody's house. Any way that you pay for access to those eyeballs, that's going to be the print side of your business. Okay. So the showcase side of your business is purely how do I get people to see me? That's the one question you're asking. Now, this is not the stage that John was struggling with, but it is the stage that I fixed for our own business recently. You see, I had pretty decent exposure where I was on stages in front of people at conferences. So I was getting clients there. I was on podcasts all the time. I had my own podcast. I was getting referrals left and right from consultants and other industry partners. And we were getting referrals from clients. We had a decent flow. But one thing that I had never gotten good at was social media in general. And so I committed, this is roughly 60 days ago, to post 45, not 425, 45 times a week. And after posting 45 times a week for 60 days straight, now that sounds juicy and you hear somebody like a Gary Vee or an Alex Hormozy or whoever say, oh yeah, I'm posting 45 times a week or 45 times a day or 100 times a day. It's across multiple platforms. Okay. So I posted roughly 9 times across 5 different platforms each week. And at the end of it, my leads tripled. After 60 days, my lead intake tripled for our business. We have an extremely predictable revenue coming in now just because I committed to posting on social media multiple times a week. So that is how I improved, at least personally, that showcase level. Now, as a note, this is not necessarily, I didn't perform better because I was more creative. I performed better because I was consistent, because I posted every single day, rain or shine. And I had a goal to post a couple of times a day, which helped me to distribute that content across more platforms. So I had a couple of posts on a handful of days each week. And then sometimes it was just a single post each day that I would build with my team. And then from these YouTube videos, started clipping them like crazy. So now we're getting a dramatic amount more content out on each platform. So we're probably closer to 50 a week, 60 to 70 a week right now, which is awesome. The next stage is connect. So you showcase, you get eyeballs on your business. The next stage is connect. How are you getting those eyeballs to make a decision? How are you getting those eyeballs to do something with you? Okay, that's the connect stage. That connection could be through a lead magnet on your website. It could be through you saying, hey, download my free PDF, whatever that is where you're hitting your audience specifically or your niche for your service specifically. Hey, download my free PDF. Hey, watch my free webinar, whatever it is. Connect is how do we get the eyeballs that were up here to come get into our sales pipeline? How do we get them to opt into our ecosystem? And my typical recommendation there is to have some sort of what's called a lead magnet. Your lead magnet should be some sort of a free or cheap offering that is low cost to you, but high value to them. Something that they say, yeah, I would have paid $20 for something like that. Okay. So think amazing webinar, think PDF, think think some sort of a, maybe in a discount on some sort of onboarding fee that you have, something that they say, yeah, that's worth it. I'll give you my contact info for that. And this stage specifically, this is not the stage that John got improvement on, but this stage specifically, I cannot tell you how many businesses, once we take over a website that we're running for them and we bump up the conversion rate strategy in that C stage, holy smokes, the faucet gets turned on. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know all these leads were available to us. And it's like, yeah, you just needed somebody to look at where they were. And all of a sudden their sales pipeline is drenched with brand new leads. And it's awesome. And the coolest thing about that is that generally that stage, you don't pay anything additional to optimize and conversion rate optimize, whether it's your website or your collateral. All you're doing is optimizing it. And for some people, 3xing their revenue just from changing whatever the offer is on page or adding an offer because they never had one. Next is everyone's favorite stage, acquire. This is where you get to have the sales call. This is where you get to grow some hair on your chest. Okay, so if you have gotten the eyeballs, you've turned those eyeballs into contact information. This next one is, okay, great. How do we turn that contact information into a sale? How do we sell somebody on why it would be awesome to work with us? And that acquisition stage, I'll tell you what, anytime I've worked with a business that has a low acquisition, so for example, if it's a med spa that has a bunch of leads coming in, but they are closing those leads or booking those leads at like a 20% or something like that, I think the industry benchmark right now is 55% is what they should be doing. If they're doing 20%, all they have to do is improve their sales process and they will increase their rev by 2x immediately just by improving their sales processes, not by paying more for marketing, not by buying a new fancy website, but by simply improving their sales processes. Somebody like a Terry Ross in that industry, in the med spa space, is dynamite for that because she improves their sales processes. That's why her value proposition is just so high, because she makes people so much money just by cleaning up that process. Next, and this is the stage that you might not have seen previously, is labor. It's actual delivery of the service. This is what happens when somebody says yes to you. What is that process like? And are we fulfilling on the promises that we just made over here, and over here? We have told them, here's what it's like to work with us. We have said, oh my gosh, here's some free stuff. We're zhuzhing them up in the sales process. It's going to be incredible. And you are hoping right here that it matches. This is not John's struggle either. John had an incredible rapport with his clients and people loved sticking with him. So the labor was not the issue. But I'll tell you what, me personally, we tightened up our delivery process. We didn't have a problem with delivering good content when we delivered it. The problem we had was our internal flow was so disorganized. When we locked that into a clean, duplicatable flow for our team, holy smokes, it unlocked my ability to step back further, allow the team to manage it, and then scale the system up, which is dynamite. I cannot advocate for you building a system around your labor stage. I can't advocate enough for it. And the final stage that everyone's wondering about, this is the stage that John needed the most help on. The engage stage. E stands for engage. John had been in business for over 10 years. He owned a med spa, and I walked through this entire framework and I said, John, how are we doing with intake? He goes, I've got thousands and tens of thousands of followers on social and they love me and they engage with me. Amazing. How are we doing on lead intake? We probably could be better, but in general, we've got a pretty decent flow. How are we doing on our sales processes? Our team has a decent flow. Again, could be better, but it still doesn't add up. How are we doing on service? He goes, people love us. They stick around when we get them. I said, how are we doing on reactivating our existing list? People that might have fallen off. And I said, how big is your existing list? You know how many people John said he had on his email list? He had 9,000 previous patients that he had seen over 10 years. I said, John, 9,000 patients that love you. You should be printing money at 9,000 people. And so what did we do? We said, hey, let's build some sort of a campaign for you to activate all 9,000 of those people. And so in his case, we sent a text blast and an e-blast, and he filled up his schedule for the next 90 days or something like that from a text and an e-blast series that he sent out. And it was not magic. It was just him. I had said, when's the last time that you sent them an email? He goes, never. I said, a text? He says, I've never done it. I've never marketed to my existing list. And I said, events? Nothing? He goes, no, I just get the new ones and then people stick around sometimes, and they mostly stick around, but then sometimes they fall off. I said, oh, buddy. I said, you have you have a gold mine available to you. So we sent that text and poof, he was booked out for 90 days straight. John originally came to me saying, how do I get more here? He wanted more marketing. He wanted more attention to his business. And I said, buddy, you do not need more attention to your business. All you need to do is activate your current list. Now he's got this killer flow and he is throwing more money into the top now. But the catch is that now that he's throwing more money here, he knows that it's going to work appropriately here and then he can resell cycle them back up to the top. No matter what phase of business you are in, there are relevant lessons in that scale framework for anybody. Whether you are first starting out and you need to just build your plan around showcase, around connecting, around acquisition, around labor, and around engagement, or you have a massive team and you need to figure out, okay, great, what are the items we need to improve in the showcase category, in the connection category, in the acquisition category, the labor category, the engagement category. This works for teams on any size, this framework, and I think this will work for your business, whatever that rut you're stuck in, whatever that thing that you're stuck in. I hope that the majority of people don't get to this part of the video because they heard some sort of big tip on C and they were like, oh my gosh, I've got to change that right now. So I hope the retention rate is low just for the sheer fact that they're like cutting out of here and they're going to somewhere to workshop how to fix that next part of their business that they were stuck on. So I hope this cleared something up for you because peace and good flow is available to you. And if you can clear this, whatever that blockage is in your pipeline, you're going to be awesome. If you want to go deeper on any one of these 5 stages, I have got videos on all of them on our YouTube channel. Go subscribe, like, comment down below if you want to hear more content on any of this stuff. I want to help you win. We'll talk soon.